Hey everyone, it's your professional sarcastic man and seeker of attention, Oz Chris, here with a review of Kamen Rider Zeo Episode 5, Switch On 2011, the first in another two-parter for Kamen Rider Fourze and Kamen Rider Fourze. It's the first two-parter that will be celebrating two different Kamen Rider series at the same time. But in this episode, it mainly just focuses on the Fourze aspect, with the next one focusing on Fourze. So, more importantly, this is the Fourze tribute episode. So, starting off, we're introduced to the new timejacker, Schwartz, who seems to be a bit more intimidating and more powerful than the two timejackers we already seen, Uru and the best girl. From what we've seen so far in this episode, he takes no as an answer. He's very dedicated to their job, his job as a timejacker, to create their own king. As such, he won't hesitate to turn somebody into another rider, even if they don't want to. Although it's not shown, it's very heavily implied that he would do something like that. And he also has the ability to freeze the other timejackers in time as well, leaving them only to be able to slightly move their heads or talk. It being a tribute episode and it being Fourze, the concept of friendship pops up quite a few times throughout this episode. Sogo doesn't have that many friends, and he's wondering if Tsukuyomi and Guys could possibly be his friends, despite the fact they're there to stop him from becoming Omazeo, so it's a complicated relationship. You have the pretty much the huge club of friendship, the Kamen Rider Club. They return, but none of the original members or the actors return for this episode. Instead, it's two of the newest members that appeared in the Wizard and Fourze film, Movie War Ultimatum, and of course their faculty advisor, their teacher, Tutor. He appears as well. So technically one of the original members appears in this episode. You know, the comic relief teacher, of course. It's kind of their way of at least having a cameo within. It's just like, if we can't get the actual ones, we'll get some of the side characters, or we'll try to acknowledge some kind of continuity, despite the fact this series is just points middle finger to continuity and just will mess it up. And of course, this is the first episode where the main lead from the series they're celebrating doesn't return. So Soda Fukushi, who plays Gentaro Kasaragi, aka Kamen Rider Fourze, he doesn't appear in this episode. His actor doesn't appear in this episode. Gentaro does appear, but I will give this for the production. They do a good job of obscuring him. You only ever see his back, or you see him transformed. So it's it was an interesting way to kind of have Gentaro there without actually having his actor return. They could have just gone with the simple option of just he's transformed the whole time. It being an anniversary, they got to find a way to work around it. They're not doing the decade way where there's just these are just alternate versions, so there's an excuse to have different actors because they're not the same person, obviously. And also something that is revealed in this episode is that, and a question that was shown in some forums, people were wondering what happens to the villains of the series. Like, the Kamen Riders lose their power once it becomes a ride watch. So, and their history is removed. So what happens to the villains? Because if it's only the hero and their powers that are removed, their history, what happens to the antagonists, to the villains, the henchmen, what happens to them? It's shown that they're also removed as well. So, because to be fair, Japan would be just under control from various evil organizations right now if the villains survived. Pretty much the whole series gets erased. Once Zeo Guys gets their ride watch as a power. Well, their power as a ride watch, I mean. But overall, this was a good episode. But Zio is still it's still taking its time to build up. It's only 5 episodes so far. So we'll see how episode 6 goes, the Fourze tribute episode, as we did have cameos from 2 certain members. I won't say if you haven't seen the previews already, but it should be interesting how they, given who one of them is, let's see if they're actually going to explain how that person is there. But that's it for the video. I will see all of you next time. Cue the music.